North Broadway United Methodist Church. Who are they and how are they helping their community, starting with their youth? North Broadway United Methodist Church has been around for over 100 years. Since then, a lot has changed. For decades, the church has been working to make an impact on the community, and today we will be diving into how.
Before diving in, I just want to take a moment and thank Joe Blundo and Lizzie O'Malley for their very helpful insight in helping me get this project done.
First off, to talk about North Broadway, we have Joe Blundo, who has been a part of the church since 1985.
How many work trips have you been on? How many mission trips? And I guess you can include all the ones for the ERT as well.
Um, I'd say about 30.
Wow.
I started on with work camps in 2000, and I missed maybe two or three since then, but I've been on most of them since 2000.
Wow. Describe what like a typical work mission trip looked like for you.
Usually we'll go out of state, often to an area that's had a natural disaster, so hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and if the work camp is, as you know, is with high school students, so we've brought in the earlier years we would probably be a group of about over 30 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes over 40. It's gotten a little smaller over the years, maybe between 20 and 30 lately, but usually we'll spend a week and sleep in a church, sometimes on a floor, sometimes in like a dormitory if we're lucky, and eat together as a group, and then break up into teams and go out. And the agency that we're working for, which is typically some kind of disaster relief agency, will assign us addresses, and so we'll break up into teams and go to 2 or 3 or 4 different addresses to do the work.
I then went on to ask Joe what his most memorable mission trip experience was, or which one was the most impactful to him or somebody else. Here's his response.
Assignment was to help a family whose mobile home had been flooded by this terrible flood in Clendenin, the flood on the Elk River.
Mm-hmm.
It killed some people and just wrecked a lot of houses. And so this was a small, trailer, basically. This family lived in with a mother, a father, and a high school age son. And they had been out of they were out of their trailer for several months because it was just uninhabitable. I think they were living with her mother, and then they got tired of that, so they moved back into the trailer before it was done. So it's very crowded in there, very, very, not very comfortable. The son, Tyler, he was, I think, 15, couldn't sleep in his bedroom, so he'd been sleeping on the couch for like 6 months when we got there. And, and in addition to all those problems, the mom, who's named Bobby, she's about in her mid-30s, I'd say. She'd gotten this infection at some point, and it almost killed her. And then her mother, who lived nearby, was in this really bad car accident on the road that passes by in the front of their trailer. So, I mean, she'd just been through it, She was very concerned about her son because he couldn't have friends over or anything like that. His high school was closed because of the flood. He had to go to a different high school.
Wow.
And he just felt isolated, So we get there, I think there were 5 of us, 3, well, there must have been 6, I guess 3 adults and 3 kids.
Right.
3 high school students. And, I thought, we're just going to make her life harder because it's so crowded in here. We're supposed to sand drywall, which is a messy thing. So we did the best we could. We covered their possessions as best we could, moved stuff around as carefully as we could. But they were just really gracious. They were not demanding at all. The dad was usually at work, so we didn't see him. But Bobby, the mom, would just go out on her front porch and sit while we worked in there to stay out of our way. And one of the cool things that happened was that her son bonded with the high school students we brought along. They had some mutual interests. They liked hip hop music, and so they played that all week. And
Right.
and he just really enjoyed the company, and that made a big difference. And then, the thing about all these trips is the work you do is important, but sometimes listening to the people is just as important. So we heard all about Bobby's life and what she'd been through, and she wanted to talk, and she did. So we worked on drywall all week, and our goal had sort of become let's get Tyler back into his bedroom so he's got a decent place to sleep, And we succeeded in that. By the end of the week, he was back in his bedroom.
That's awesome.
Made us feel good, and they, we really bonded with them. We felt like we'd become friends, and there were tears when we said goodbye on Friday afternoon.
I remember that trip, but I don't like it's crazy because I remember being in we were working in a thrift store, and I was all over that week, but I don't remember having any experiences like that. So I just think it's really fascinating, and I'm glad that you brought up the fact that sometimes the work is important, but the connections that you make with them is sometimes even more important, because like you said, that he was kind of isolated because he didn't really have that many friends. So that was probably just really great for him to have that connection with some of our students. So
yeah, I think it was. I've had to remind myself over the years, because I get there with my tools, and I'm like, I'm ready to go, but it's important to stop and make some personal connections, and
Right.
don't be in too big of a hurry. You kind of read the room and see what you think they really need.
Right.
Sometimes they just talk,
Sometimes they just need to talk to somebody, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a short interview, and so I just got one more question for you. And do you feel that North Broadway helps beyond mission trips and all that type of work too? I think about how we help with the CRC, the Clinical Resource Center, and I don't know if you can think of any more examples or anything like that.
Yeah, well, they're collecting supplies for the Afghan refugees who are coming over here.
Oh, wow.
Now, so they're clothing, food, necessities you'd need if you were coming to a country with nothing, basically.
Right.
Learning how things work. So they've done things like that all the time I've been there. It's been with different groups of refugees, and the CRC is a big one, because North Broadway started with the CRC. It's now independent, but it's grown so much.
Really, we started the CRC.
Yeah, the early 1970s. They were going to do a church remodeling, and the idea came up that if we're going to spend money on ourselves, we ought to also spend it on the community. So I think they gave $1 they devoted $1 to start the CRC for every $2 they spent on remodeling the church. So it amounted to a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
That's how it got started. Yeah. The mission project has been the Interfaith Hospitality Network. So early in the 90s, a group of churches got together and started housing homeless people for a week. They take turns a week at a time, housing the homeless, and then so they'd sleep at the church overnight. We'd feed them, and then they'd go out and go to school, go look for jobs, apply for jobs, or whatever they do in the daytime. So that went on for many years, and then the YWCA built a family shelter out off of Fifth Avenue. So that replaced the church network, but the church has stayed active. By once a month, they go out and they cook dinners and bring them out there and serve the people dinner. So we've stayed active that way.
Wow. And so the YMCA took that one over.
YWCA.
Okay.
Yeah. It's called the YWCA Family Shelter, I think.
All right.
It's on the east side off of Fifth Avenue.
In order for me to get the input from the youth as well, I interviewed Nezzie O'Malley, a senior at the youth group at North Broadway.
How long have you been a part of North Broadway?
Let's see, I'm 18, so since I was born, so 18 years.
The whole time. So, I mean, then 4 years of youth group you've been involved. Okay.
Yeah, well, since like 7th grade when we were
Right,
able
that's
to.
when youth group starts. Okay.
So I guess that'd be like 5 years.
Yeah. And how many mission trips have you been on there since you've been to?
3, and I missed one because of COVID. Sadly.
Yeah, that was my senior year one.
Mm-hmm.
Which of those ones was your favorite work camp? Maybe if you don't have a favorite, do you have one? The next question is going to be, what is your which one do you feel like you most impacted somebody, or maybe you were impacted by somebody?
That's a hard question because I feel
it's a really hard. This is the hardest question.
Yeah.
So this one's like the.
I think
the biggest one.
Probably last year's. Yeah, I'm gonna say last year's work camp. We went to Athens, Ohio, with an organization called Good Works, and they basically their mission is just to help their neighbors in their community, and so that's in like so many different ways. And so we had the opportunity to volunteer in the community in a variety of ways throughout the week. And so an example would be one day we went to this elderly woman's trailer home where she had lived her whole adult life, and when it had flooded, it had flooded, and her whole like shed where all of her memory keepsake stuff was in there. It was all destroyed, and it was really sad. And so we helped her by going through, and like it was really like filled up to the brim, like you could not
Lots
put
of
anything else.
Right.
Yeah, and it was really I don't know, it was just really impactful to like help her like go through that with her, because she obviously physically could not do that, but also be there for her emotionally, because she we came across her son's baby clothes that were like completely ruined. We came across so many different like special keepsakes to her, and so we were able to help her obviously remove that stuff so she would have more space, but we were also able to help her emotionally, and we prayed with her, and we were able to form a friendship with her, which I think is so important.
Right, it's help beyond just like physically helping, but like having a emotional connection, and like just asking somebody like, how are you doing?
Right.
How has this been? Especially after the pandemic, like that was a really hard trip to go on, I bet, because
yeah, and another thing that we did during that week was we helped build another house. So they have currently a house called the Timothy House, where people experiencing homelessness can go stay there, and it's pretty much set up like to be as homey as possible. So they have a kitchen where like if you want to cook, you can cook stuff, and it's just really meant to be someplace where people can feel comfortable.
It feels like at home, right?
A home. And we were helping them build another house that will have bedrooms on the first floor, so that way people who can't climb stairs can also have a place to stay.
That's a really good thing for that.
So that was really cool. And along with that, at the Timothy House that's like currently there, we could each, like 1 or 2 people every night, could go over there just for dinner and socialize with the people staying there. And so, that's an example of, we were not like physically doing something like building the house, but we were just able to talk with these people who so often are just like pushed off to the side and ignored, and having a conversation with them, getting to know them, treating them like the human being that they are,
because they don't experience that living like their day-to-day lives, just because you don't think about how privileged we are to just have like go to school and talk to your friends, or like yada yada yada, but like these people may not always get to have a conversation with somebody, so that's really nice.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, what ways do you feel North Broadway helps beyond these mission trips?
Well, just in our own community here in Columbus, we collect canned donations all the time. We have like a little place down by the sanctuary where people can bring in their donations for the local food pantry. And we also collect donations for these bags with just like basic essential stuff. Like toothbrushes, toothpaste, those kinds of things. And
you wouldn't think that somebody needs, but they do. It's right. Necessities that you wouldn't always think about.
Yeah, and like we had like put together these bags and stuff like that. Like a little while ago, they passed out a bunch of those bags, and they're like drawstring bags, and they had like all sorts of things that just basic toiletries, and then also there were a couple snacks in there and that kind of thing. And then people could take them after church with them and like put them in their cars. So then the next time they're driving down the street, they could, and they saw somebody, with a sign like asking for help. And
you give them food. And stuff. That's really smart.
You could give them this bag, and it has food, it has deodorant, and it has like a bunch of different things. So that was really cool. And we also, at the food pantry that I was talking about, we also volunteer sometimes there just to serve food. A lot of that was pre-COVID when, we
could gather in large groups.
We could gather in large groups.
And especially making food, right?
Right. And serve food to people and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
One more thing I wanted to add before closing out this video from one of the several interviews I had conducted came from my youth pastor, Heather. She said that beyond the CRC and beyond helping the homeless people in the community, North Broadway helps with social injustice. North Broadway has made a clear impact in helping the LGBTQ community feel safe and welcome at the Methodist Church, which has been a problem for a long time. And I was very happy that she added this on because it goes on to show that beyond helping with the missionary work, beyond helping the community that's local around them, they also help alienated communities in order to feel accepted.